Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just officially confirmed a break below this very important area on the price chart, which now officially invalidates this price pattern that we need to pay attention to. And this is also wiping out massive liquidity towards the downside on this Bitcoin price chart. And this price chart right here is also revealing new price targets to the downside that we need to pay attention to. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about all of that and, of course, explaining why we just saw this dump over the last one day alongside Ethereum also now invalidating this price pattern with a break to the downside, while Solana is continuing the perfect rejection from this exact area of resistance. I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to take a look at some news today, because potentially one of the reasons as to why we just saw this dump just recently, a quick little dump in the short term for Bitcoin and crypto, potentially one of the reasons that helped to cause this dump was, of course, new tariff news coming out of the President of the United States. And so just around one day ago, over the last one day, we did see this new post by Donald Trump here, basically stating that starting on February 1st this year, so very, very soon, all of these countries that you could read right here, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Finland, will basically face a 10% tariff starting basically 1st of February. And then on top of that, starting on the 1st of June this year, that tariff will be increased to 25%. So massive new tariffs on all of these different countries right here. And this is all to do with, of course, the purchase and the deal surrounded Greenland. And so in other words, as the president says here, this tariff will remain in place and remain due and payable until the deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. And so in other words, he's basically saying until the United States owns Greenland, these tariffs are going to continue on all of these countries. And as we all know by now, tariffs basically crash the market, except for precious metals. Right now, gold is actually pumping, but there's a good chance that stocks may dump when they open in the pre-market. For example, on Tuesday, we might see a bit of a pullback in the stock market. Typically, that happens when there's new tariff announcements or any new uncertainty in the market. And of course, we're already seeing that happen right now in the crypto market, a new dump following these new tariff announcements. But it does seem that over the last few months, over the last 1 year or so, of course, gold, precious metals has been a bit of a safe haven. So right now, gold is indeed pumping on this news, while crypto and what assets are seen as more risky are currently dumping on this new news. And so that's potentially just one of the major factors that's helping to cause a bit of a dump in the short term for Bitcoin and crypto. So with that being said, getting into the Bitcoin charts today here on the weekly time frame, not much has changed over the last one day. The super trend indicator still sitting in the red, and of course we still have this massive bearish divergence to watch out for on the weekly Bitcoin price chart. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, despite the latest short-term dump over the last one day and a couple of days pulling back a little bit in the short term, technically speaking, we still have an active bullish divergence here on the 3-day Bitcoin price chart. Over the last one day, this has not yet been invalidated. And so this is telling us that it's still actually possible that we could continue either a bit of choppy sideways price action like this, or maybe even a little bit more of a bullish relief within the next 1 or 2 weeks. Not necessarily in the imminent short term in the next hour, but maybe within the next 1 or 2 weeks, this could still affect the price of Bitcoin. So keep that in mind. There's still some hope here. But with that being said, of course, taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is still testing this crucial area right here based on previous resistance, now acting as new support, and that's sitting in between around 92,000 to 94,000. And obviously over the last one day, we did just confirm a daily candle close below 94,000, which now technically invalidates this inverse head and shoulders pattern. So yes, technically speaking, this price pattern and the price target for this pattern right here is now invalidated, because we have seen a break below with confirmation back below this neckline below 94,000. But even though this particular pattern right here and the price target for this price pattern is now invalid, technically speaking, once again, it's still possible we could perhaps hold 92,000, this area in between 92 to 94,000, if the price holds above 92k in terms of the candle closes here, and ideally sees a bounce pretty soon over the next few days or so, while we're continuing to play out this bullish divergence on the 3-day time frame, once again, there is still some hope when we're talking about the next 1 or 2 weeks to maybe continue a little bit more of a relief or maybe a sideways consolidation. So not everything is over just yet, but of course, this price pattern, the inverse head and shoulders pattern, has now been invalidated. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, of course, over the last half a week or so, we have been perfectly playing out this short-term warning signal that I've been talking about every day for the last half a week since all the way back up here, which is of course a bearish divergence, telling us to expect weakness, lacky bullish momentum, and most likely a bit of a pullback coming next. Is exactly what I said right here, and obviously that's exactly what's been playing out since then. And now that we have broken below that 94k level, obviously this is a short-term bearish signal, which means we could potentially once again find resistance at that level. So of course, if we see a little bit of a bounce again, expect some resistance at give or take 94,000. And technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still currently active. It's not yet been invalidated, which means maybe just for the next day or so, continue some more weakness, maybe even a couple of days, but at least over the next 1 day, expect either a sideways consolidation like this, or maybe a little bit more of a pullback. But basically, it's unlikely we'll see significant bullish momentum straight away just in the next 24 hours. Obviously, at some point in the future, we could see another decent bullish move, but not necessarily in the next day. And so that's a second reason as to why we've been seeing some short-term bearish price action, on top of obviously that tariff news over the last 1 day, helping to dump crypto in the short term. On top of that, once again, we have that bearish divergence also influencing the price in the short term. And on top of those reasons helping to cause this short-term dump, we of course have the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, which has been revealing liquidity building towards the downside. As I did warn about in my last video before the dump, I said, watch out, we have a price target now at around 93,500, because that was really the next major level of liquidity that was closest to the price. So I said, get ready, potentially quite soon we could see a move down towards 93,500, and obviously we did see that move, and unfortunately we failed to actually bounce back up above 94,000. We actually obviously confirmed the candle closes below 94k, and therefore invalidated this price pattern while we were taking out that liquidity. And what we can see right now in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map is, first of all, a small amount of liquidity at around 96,000, a small amount at around 98,000, but honestly, the next major price target based on this chart right here is this massive level of liquidity building just below the current price as of recording this video, sitting at around 91,500. So basically in between 91.3k to 91.7k, but especially around 91.5k, that's really the next price target. Once again, no such thing as a 100% guarantee. I'm not saying the price is definitely going there, but I'm saying that's a very likely chance where the price will likely hit that level at some point, maybe in the next 1 or 2 days. So very, very soon, do not be surprised if we wipe out that liquidity at around 91,500. And so obviously those are a few of the major reasons as to why we've seen this short-term pullback over the last few days, of course, thanks to this bearish divergence and liquidity building towards the downside. And then more recently, obviously, the tariff news did not help Bitcoin and crypto at all in the short term. And so now that all of this has happened over the last 1 day, of course, I'm now completely out of my Bitcoin long position. I did close it at around break even, considering obviously, as I've shared over the last half a week, I did take profits pretty much right at this exact high at around 97,500. I took profits out of my long position. You can check my last few videos. I showed my exact orders fully transparently over the last half a week since the moment I opened the trade. Obviously took profits right there, which meant even if I closed the rest of the trade in a slight loss due to the fact that I secured some profits at higher prices, overall it was relatively break even. So overall, not too bad. Obviously not necessarily taking any major losses here, but now out of the trade just in case we do continue a little bit more of a pullback in order to potentially avoid any further losses in more of a worst case scenario here. Now that we have technically invalidated this price pattern, seen a break below 94,000 and still building liquidity towards the downside. Once again, at least in my situation, not financial advice, it just doesn't make too much sense right at this moment to be in that long position. But But obviously, if I open a new trading opportunity or see a new opportunity or take profits or sell or buy or anything like that, of course, I will be sharing that here on the channel completely transparently, fully for free on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And obviously, in order to be prepared to take the next trading opportunity, if you want to, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And if you use the first link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, that will take you to the 2bit crypto exchange, which is an exchange that I personally use myself from time to time. And by the way, it's also a no KYC exchange. And if you use that first link below the video, you can take advantage of some major bonuses over here, like over 18,000 USDT in sign up bonuses, trading bonuses, etc. using that first link below the video to 2bit. And on top of that, if you use that link, it can also take you to this La Liga page, because 2bit just partnered with La Liga, and there's currently a huge event happening right now over on 2bit, 800,000 USDT in prizes and so much more around this event right here. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well check this out. You might as well take advantage of this using that first link below the video. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But if you want another option out there, another exchange that I personally use myself, then in that situation, check out the second link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, because that link below the video will take you to this page right here over on the Pinex crypto exchange, where you can also take advantage of some major bonuses. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well take advantage of this. Once again, second link below the video, just by using that link to make your account complete KYC, you get a 50 USDT bonus onto your Pinex account. And on top of that, there's deposit bonuses. If you deposit as little as 100 USDT, you get a 100 USDT bonus on your account. If you deposit 10,000, you get a 1,000 USDT bonus onto your Pinex account. So obviously a bunch of free money you can claim using that second link below the video from the exchange, just by depositing and completing KYC using that link. And so once again, especially if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, definitely take advantage of these major bonuses using the links below this video to those exchanges. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and right now the Bitcoin dominance is obviously on a short-term bullish move, but overall in terms of the larger trend or price structure, we're still actually looking very neutral, kind of just bouncing around somewhat sideways. So overall, expect somewhat similar price action for a lot of the major altcoins out there on average as to what Bitcoin is doing, which means if Bitcoin has a short-term dump like what we just saw, expect something similar to this for a lot of the major altcoins. Is basically what the Bitcoin dominance is telling us right now. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, right now the price of ETH is obviously rejecting from this resistance at close to 3.4k, really in between around 3.3k to 3.4k. We have a lot of resistance around there. We also have more resistance at just above 3.6k. And as for support, we have significant support at around 3,050, but really in between 3,000 to 3.1k is the area of support that I'll be focusing on. And if we're staying on the daily time frame but zooming into this area on the price chart, obviously we had this previous symmetrical triangle pattern, also known as a horizontal triangle pattern, and just over the last one day, obviously following Bitcoin's break to the downside, Ethereum is also breaking below this crucial line on the price chart, which was sitting at around 3250 to 3260. And now technically speaking, we've not yet fully seen this daily candle close actually confirm the break towards the downside. So technically speaking, we've not yet fully invalidated the breakout, but at this point we're getting extremely close to actually invalidating the breakout. And of course, with Bitcoin breaking to the downside, this means we should not necessarily be confident in a bullish breakout for Ethereum if Bitcoin is looking like this. Remember, the Bitcoin dominance tells us right now that Ethereum and major altcoins will likely perform very similar to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin continues dumping below 94k and holding below 94k in the coming days, even if Ethereum holds above this line on the price chart, obviously don't necessarily expect a significant amount of bullish momentum for Ethereum, while Bitcoin is showing a lot of weakness in the short term. And so that's the current situation for Ethereum. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 3-hour time frame, some hope in the immediate short term is that we just briefly brushed against oversold here in the 3-hour Ethereum RSI. And obviously the last couple of times we hit overbought, which is of course the opposite to an oversold signal. The last couple of times we hit overbought, especially the last time right here, that was a sign that we went too far to the upside too quickly in the short term, and we need a little bit of time to cool off, have a break from all of the bullish price action over the next couple of days, which means this close to oversold signal, pretty much just entering into oversold, means that we're likely going to, maybe in the next few hours, maybe the next 1 or 2 days, just a very short term here, likely going to have a little bit of a break from all of the bearish price action. Not necessarily no more bearish price action forever, but just for the next day or so. Once again, only in the short term, expect maybe a slight little relief like this, but obviously not necessarily a significant amount of bullish momentum. That's still quite unlikely. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, obviously Solana is following Bitcoin and Ethereum with those short-term dumps, and in fact Solana is perfectly rejecting again from my exact area of resistance, still sitting in between 143 to 147. So obviously continue to expect a lot of resistance in that area, as I've been saying for months now on the channel, in between 143 to 147. And in fact right now the price of Solana is starting to potentially break below around 134, which was a level of support to watch out for. But if we continue the break towards the downside, especially with a daily candle close below 134, in that situation the next massive support to watch out for is at around 124 to 125. But overall, honestly, the price of Solana is still essentially in this massive sideways price range in between roughly 124 to 147. So honestly, not a lot has changed over the last couple of months. We're still in the same sideways price range, and like I've been saying over the last few days, pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing. If Bitcoin sees that break below 94,000, which has happened, obviously that increases the probability that we're going to see a rejection and not a breakout here, at least this time, for the price of Solana. And so overall, just expect a very similar price action for Solana as to what Bitcoin is doing once again. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, right now on this chart right here, not much has changed over the last 1 day. We still have the massive bearish divergence to watch out for that I warned about many months ago around end of July, early August. So that's still technically active, not yet been invalidated, but we also still have a lot of support at give or take $1.80. So keep that in mind at $1.80, still a major level of support to watch out for. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously over the last 1 day, XRP followed Bitcoin with that short-term dump. Like I warned about in my last video, XRP needed Bitcoin to see some sort of bounce very, very soon in order to avoid a break towards the downside. Like I warned about in my last video, I said if Bitcoin, for example, continues more bearish price action like this and struggles a little longer, that will significantly increase the probability that we will see a break towards the downside and a bearish dump of some sort in the short term for XRP. And obviously that's exactly played out now over the last 1 day. In fact, we made it almost down towards my exact level of support at $1.80. We were only just a few cents off $1.80. We made it down towards around $1.83 before we started to bounce around there. So once again, at close to $1.80, we still do have a lot of support around there, which is at least some good news in the short term, obviously. But overall, we're not really looking very strong. So yes, we could see bounces from support, but don't necessarily expect massive high momentum movements towards the upside, at least not right now. We're still simply lacking the bullish momentum and still looking relatively weak in the shorter term for XRP. And in fact, right now the price of XRP is starting to retest this previous level of support, which could now act as new resistance at around $2.05, but really in between $2 to $2.05. That area right there, expect some resistance around there on the price chart. But if we see a confirmed breakout back above $2.05 and hold above that level, in that situation we could find a small amount of resistance at around $2.17 to $2.18, and of course we still have significant resistance in between $2.30 to $2.40. And honestly, considering the latest drop and the latest bounce from close to $1.80, I'll not be surprised now that just in the next 1 day, talking about the next short-term move, I'll not be surprised if the price of XRP kind of just bounces around somewhat sideways here in the short term, basically stabilizing a little bit, letting the dust settle after that latest short-term volatile movement. So keep that in mind. That is my next prediction moving forward and the key levels to watch out for. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink. Obviously, Chainlink also followed the rest of the crypto market and Bitcoin, etc., with that short-term dump. As always, expect similar price action for a lot of these major altcoins. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, obviously we still have a significant level of support at close to $12, but before then we do have some support we're running into right now at give or take $12.80. So keep that in mind. At roughly around $12.80, we do have some support around there. And as for resistance, if we see a bit of a bounce from around this support, in that situation expect expect resistance now at around 1330 to 1350 approximately, and more resistance at around 1420, and more resistance in between $14.70 to $15. And we also now have confirmed some official invalidation signals to invalidate that bullish divergence here, which obviously played out very nicely over a few weeks or so in the short-term bullish relief here. But now we also have a possible bearish divergence with a very slight little higher high in the price and a lower high in the RSI. But we also, of course, have lower highs in the RSI alongside lower lows now in the RSI, which is a bit of a trend reversal starting to form, which is another invalidation signal invalidating this bullish divergence. So overall, expect a little bit of weakness in the coming days as a likely scenario. Maybe some choppy sideways price action, maybe a little bit more of a pullback, not necessarily a huge crash as a very likely scenario, but basically just a little bit more weakness. So kind of the price action that we've been seeing over the last half a week could potentially continue in the next few days or in the next 1 week. And so those are my expectations moving forward and the key levels and signals to watch out for all of these crypto assets. And obviously, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to take advantage of some major bonuses that you can claim using those links below the video if you want to, especially if you're going to be trading crypto anyway. You might as well check it out. Once again, links below the video to those exchanges. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what direction the price goes, if you want to know how you could profit not just in the bullish price action but also during the bearish price action, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.